how can you tell clients that, and with any degree of validity, that you're going to find them consumers, speak to them in their language, help them discover your product, or whatever marketing language you want to do, but then be the type of person that is difficult to communicate with. And I think those things are diametrically opposed. If you want to be a good communicator, if you want to be in this profession, you have to be okay adapting your communication styles. I'd never want a client to feel like a Jira ticket. I want each of my clients, in as much as I can possibly, feel like they have the ability to always get at me directly, to always communicate with me about anything that's on their mind.
This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Philly Made podcast, the podcast where we build community by learning about our fellow Philly friends in the business world. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Rachel Vandernick from the Vander Group. Today, we talk about fun marketing successes and faux pas. I hope you enjoy as much as I did. Thank you.
Hello, Rachel. Thank you so much for coming on with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I really appreciate it. So, okay, this is something that I was super interested in because I thought that this was kind of unique for an agency that I've seen before. How did you create your slogan or kind of tagline for your business? I know it says like for internet obsessed businesses. I thought that was really unique, and I was wondering if that was something that worked for you for grabbing the attention of potential customers.
So for me, the internet obsessed brands is the thought that like any client that I want to work with, that we want to work with, is somebody that is so deeply invested in internet culture, internet consumerism, and how we behave and operate online, which is so different from, sometimes in a good way, sometimes not, how people behave in the real world and how we market in print or in person or out of home. So for brands that are super invested in online acquisition, finding new consumers in all corners of the internet, that to me was like telling them, hey, I see you, I want to work with you, I know you, and I know your consumers.
Okay, I really like that. I think that the internet is kind of something you have to have an online presence now as a company. So having it as an internet obsessed business, I mean, like, I think everyone has to be. If you're not obsessed, you might be doing it wrong. But I mean, if you're too obsessed, maybe you're doing it wrong too.
We have no, there's a phrase that is used to describe, I think, sometimes people like me, which is called chronically online, like people that just cannot get off the internet, where everything is somehow an internet reference or like something that is trending online, and you reference into somebody that's like, my husband, for example, is like not online, not on social media, like doesn't really participate. And I'll say something that was like trending on Twitter, and I'll say it totally blank faced, and it'll just go over his head because he's like doesn't get it, does not, doesn't participate in internet culture. So yes, for the chronically online among us, I represent.
I love that. I am also chronically online, and I do that as well. And it's really funny when I am around people that don't understand what I'm saying, because it just seems like I'm just making up things. Like,
Like, I promise I did not invent this, but I am willing to perpetuate the meme that is happening. Yes, absolutely.
meme culture is important. I think it's part of the reason why I can't get offline, because I'm like, oh, I'll just be so out of touch if I.
Oh my god, the FOMO is I've got. I don't want to miss it. I've curated my internet corner perfectly. It's funny, it's relatable, it's tongue in cheek. It's great.
So, when you started doing growth marketing, was it your intention to get involved with more niche fields like beauty and fashion? Do you think that also separately from that, do you think that having a niche is more helpful when having a marketing business?
So I think on one hand, it kind of depends on how you define niche. I didn't set out to be like a beauty marketer, a like food and beverage marketer. I looked around and said, well, I have to work for presumably 40 years of my life. What am I good at? And what are the things that I like doing? And as it turns out, the things that I like doing are going out, looking good, traveling, having fun, and creating general nonsense. And that was something I felt like I could probably make a job that aligns with that. So as much I mean, and I worked in agencies and on in-house brands before that were more education focused and, maybe more software or B2B focused. And while I liked the marketing piece of that, I just wasn't feeling good about the work that I was doing because I just wasn't excited every day. I didn't feel like I was working on stuff that I was personally super interested in. I wasn't deeply invested in like construction equipment or like B2B tax services. Like there are some people that is their world, and I'm really grateful because it means I don't have to be in that world. For them, I think, but for me, the corner of the marketing world that I really love to work in is what I call the look good, feel good, have fun industry. So that covers travel and hospitality, that covers food and beverage, particularly in like the alcohol sector. I do a lot of business, beauty, particularly in skincare and cosmetics, and then of course, fashion is a part of that and lifestyle more generally. But it's something that, I think sometimes we take a niche and we really narrow that down to say I can only work in one industry, right? I only work in beauty, or I only work in fashion, or I only work in consumer cosmetics. And well, I think there's a lot of strength in that because it allows you to have super deep expertise, a lot of experience in one particular area. I think the risk is really twofold. Number one, that in an era where we had like COVID, if there is one particular industry that over indexes on getting hit, like hospitality, you stand to lose all of your clients, all of your work, which as somebody who's independent, that is a real risk. And two, I think there is so much to be learned from working in adjacent industries to the one that you really love. So my number one passion, my number one piece of that is beauty. I love working in beauty. But beauty doesn't live in a vacuum. It lives in this other context of consumer culture. So being good at beauty marketing is one thing, but the work that I do in beauty is informed by the work that I do in lifestyle, the work that I do in food and beverage, because that consumer is putting on their makeup and going out to a bar. That consumer is putting on their makeup and putting on an outfit and going out with their friends. And think about how these pieces of the world that we work in are connected to others. So like, on one hand, obviously I believe in niching because I kind of lived in a niche, but not so narrowly that I don't do other work in other areas. And then part of that is because I learn from adjacent industries. And also I think that we need to think about the consumer living in more than one place. And that helps inform our marketing work in that way.
I think that's a very unique perspective on thinking about the consumer is not just in one space, which is really I think that a lot of people have niches and don't think about that, I guess, if that makes sense. And I think that's a very interesting take on it because that is true. That's you're not, even if you are a niche business and you do a particular service or whatever it may be, you still are involved in these other sectors of business, whether you like it or not, because that's the world that you live in.
100%. The world we live in is connected, and treating your niche like a silo, I think sometimes shortchanges your ability to do something really exciting and innovative.
Yeah, I think I do find talking to other agencies that even niching down is helpful in a way because, again, how you said that it's like you can specialize in something and be super great at this one thing. But I think it also, with some people, it becomes almost monotonous and kind of something that, you're not getting out of your comfort zone. And then maybe that might be at a detriment to your business because you're not learning on a day to day. And I think that's something that's really important for marketing, especially marketing is constantly evolving. So to be able to have your hands in different fields is kind of something that's helpful to be able to evolve as a business.
Totally, totally. And especially if you're somebody that likes to have your hands in a bunch of different projects. I mean, again, I believe that there is some value in niching, but being able to expose yourself and your team and your clients to other practices, to other ideas that come from outside your sector, I think there's strength in that too.
How are you able to market yourself? to clients? Because I know that I know having started your own business, it must have been difficult at the beginning to be able to broadcast what you do.
Sure. I mean, like everybody it was a challenge. It was a risk. Today, I'm very fortunate to be largely referral based. So, my clients work with me, refer me to their colleagues, and I'm really grateful for that type of relationship with them. I do spend a lot of time writing and speaking. I'm pretty heavy on the conference circuit. I do a lot of writing in marketing publications. So, that offers me an outlet to both talk about things that I'm interested in marketing and market, the Vanguard Group as an entity. But I think for a lot of marketers that are in my seat, it's still relationship based marketing. It's still talking to people, sharing interesting ideas, and being in a community of people that is thinking about exciting ways to do something and trying to share and collaborate those ideas together. And whether that's, at networking groups, whether that's at meetups, whether that's at happy hours, whether that's at conferences, I think there's a lot of space for collaboration in marketing. So, for as much as I'm writing or speaking, I think that actively seeking ways to collaborate with other marketers, whether that's through partnerships or just reaching out and saying like, oh my gosh, I saw your campaign. That was so cool. Good luck. Like, rooting for you. There's an art to that is both good professionally and just personally to getting to know other people in your circle.
Yeah, I think networking is fantastic for that. Especially so for okay, so you said that you're mostly referral based. How do you kind of ensure that you're getting a referral from a customer or client?
I mean, there's no such thing as a sure thing. I think the way that you ensure that to the best of your ability is do good work, be trustworthy, be reliable, be somebody that will be accountable for the work that you do, and be somebody that provides good strategic counsel. But the other piece of that is, being willing to be someone that sometimes says no or push boundaries or push back on an idea because a good partner that generates a referral is somebody that can be trusted, period. And being trustworthy to me is the most important part of getting a referral because a client that is willing to put their name and their reputation on the line for me, the thing that I owe them is that honesty and that transparency and that good work. And to me, that's what generates that referral is being able to be guaranteed that, hey, if I put Rachel's name in the ring, that this person is going to be happy with the work that comes back and would be excited to work with this person again.
How do you ensure that how do I phrase this? How do you ensure that, okay, say you think you're objectively doing good work for a client, but they're unhappy with the outcome or like the people that they're reaching or the amount of people that they're reaching. How do you kind of backtrack with that? Like say you think that you're doing something right, but it's not working the way that you wanted it to.
There is real value in having an early on, like, playful DTR with your client, like a discuss the relationship, right? Like it's not a new client relationship is not unlike dating where you're feeling each other out, your preferences are coming out, your communication styles are coming out. And I think for new client relationships, it's so important to have a conversation early on. We're talking month 1, month 2 of your engagement with them, assuming it's not like something one-off like project based. And say, hey, like, are things working for you? Like, is there something that we're doing that you're not happy with? Is there something that I'm doing that doesn't feel like it's getting to the end goal? Are you happy with our communication style? Do you like the frequency? I know we have, for example, if we have a touch base every other week in person, do you need an email communication instead? Or if we're doing a lot of email, do you want a monthly or a bi-monthly phone call just to like chat for 15, 20 minutes and bring yourselves up to speed? I think all of those pieces are essential in building a really good relationship because the worst case scenario, right, is that you get to the end product of that relationship. You get to the deliverable, you get to the end of your agreement, and your client, for whatever reason, for a myriad of reasons perhaps, was unhappy. But because you didn't proactively address, hey, like, are you good? Are we good? Gets to a point where then it's unrecoverable. And we want to get ahead of some of those things. So as much as it's like, if you do something wrong, you need to be accountable for that, right? And like if you're going out of scope or didn't deliver something, I think that's a separate piece that's like very trigger and cause specific as to what prompted that unhappiness. But if it's like a general kind of like malaise or dissatisfaction with the relationship, I think it's worth having a super frank conversation. And look, like for me, I'm a very direct person. If my stomach hurts, I will tell you that's the end of it. Like we're going to like guess and politely dance around that somebody is unhappy. If you're not happy, I want you to tell me. And that for me has improved a lot of client relationships because it lets them know, hey, like I'm thinking about you. I care about this relationship. I care about this work product. And at the end of the day, like I want you to be in good standing with me, not just because you're my client, but because as a person, it matters to me that we're okay. And it matters that you feel good in this relationship, that you feel heard, that you feel understood, that you feel like your needs that you expressed, I heard and understood and met. Like that kind of reciprocal relationship at DTR solves a lot of it. If you can just say, or and, some clients, and some other professionals that I've worked with do this in the intake. They say, hey, what's your preferred method of communication? Do you want email? Do you want calls? Do you want biweeklies? Do you want touch bases? Do you want a status board? Do you want a project management system where you can just automatically check the status? Do you want a weekly report so that you just always know what's happening? And I think uncovering early on some of those preferences and working quirks that we all have is super important to having a good relationship with a client, kind of no matter what the work product you're doing is.
I really like that personalization that you add to it because I think that a lot of agencies that do anything like PR, marketing, whatever they may do, I think that a lot of them have a very specific mode of communication and they don't consider the client in the way that everyone has different communication styles. I do like that you related it to dating. It's funny because my boss does this often with marketing where it's that just because there might be an accepted professional way of communicating that is like considered normal or like the regular way of doing it. I think that a lot of people communicate differently and that there's more effective ways of communicating with people that don't work for other people. And I really like everything that you said about that because I don't find that really often. Where when I talk to people about it, like it's usually like one line of communication because it's already put into place. Like, oh, we have this messaging system that we use, or oh, we just communicate through email, or we have like one call when we establish our relationship, and then an end call when we're done with everything. And I think that being able to consider their opinions on what works for them is something that I feel like almost ensures that you'll have a good relationship. Like
100%. And I think, the real kicker is marketing, communication, PR. Like this is a communication driven field. And how can you tell clients that, and with any degree of, validity, that you're going to find them consumers, speak to them in their language, help them discover your product, right? Whatever marketing language you want to do, but then be the type of person that is difficult to communicate with. And I think those things are diametrically opposed, where if you could to be a good marketer, if you want to be a good communicator, if you want to be in this profession, you have to be okay adapting your communication styles. I'd never want a client to feel like a JIRA ticket where they're just like in a queue waiting to get dealt with. I want each of my clients, in as much as I can possibly, feel like they have the ability to always get at me directly, to always communicate with me about anything that's on their mind. And whether that is, hey, can you jump on a call real quick? It might disrupt my workday, but you know what? The answer to that is probably, if I can at all accommodate it, yes. Not at the expense of another client, right? There has to be boundaries and a balance somewhere. But helping clients feel like safe with you as a vendor and as a provider is super integral to preserving that relationship.
yeah, I really like that. I think that a lot of agencies it's impossible to reach a person that owns it. And I think that that's fantastic because that shows that you genuinely care about your clients. And even I'm sure that there's agencies where you can't reach someone and they do, but it's the transparency and the ability to reach you if there's a problem is great because it's not like you're always going through other people or whatever it may be.
And I tell my clients from day one, like I am available to you. Like this relationship requires me to be available to you, and I agree to that, right? And we're gonna find a way to make that work. I have clients in the UK, I have clients in the Middle East. Like time zones are a real challenge, but you figure it out because it's part of a working relationship that you have to have a functional plan of communication in order to get done the work that you need to do.
Yeah, exactly. So you also like kind of talk about on your website that marketing's one's business requires risk, which I do hear a lot. Has there ever been a situation where you take a risk and it didn't work out how you planned? How do you kind of deal with that? How do you kind of reestablish that relationship, communicate with your client, all of that?
I mean, 100%, right? Like if a risk panned out every time you took it, it wouldn't be a risk. It would be a super safe, very comfy decisions because like inherently is going to have failure baked into it. The failure rate on something exciting and net new to market is even higher than just your day-to-day kind of doing business risk. And I think that the clients that I work with, I want to understand, like, yes, we're going to try to push some boundaries. Yes, we're going to see what we can achieve together. But the risk here is that you're never going to do it alone. You're never going to be the one that is jumping, and I'm not there to back you. You're never going to be the one that is jumping and making all of these decisions, and you don't understand the pros and the cons beforehand, right? I think risk can be intelligent. I think it can be well articulated and thought out and have the pros and cons weighed very carefully, or I think it can be miscalculated and stupid and impulsive. And I think part of having a partner, part of having a vendor that speaks your language, understands your objectives, understands your consumer and your product or your service, but also is willing to push you to get to the next level, is being a partner that can understand if the risk is stupid or if the risk is intelligent. And it's a little more nebulous sometimes than I think we're comfortable with, because you want an easy barometer to say, hey, is this risk worth it? And unfortunately, there's like not a super clear and easy answer sometimes, but that's where it goes back to that relationship. If you have an established bedrock of trust and you know that I'm somebody that's going to make thoughtful decisions, weigh the data, give you options, kind of walk you through what's happening and present options to you, I'm not advocating that we do something ridiculous or unsafe or that's going to damage brand, because I think there's certainly plenty of examples in the market of that. Um, but yeah, I mean, all good innovation, all first in market requires risk, and that's just part of the job.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think I definitely resonate with the idea that without risk there is not like you don't if you're always safe in the market, then you're not going to get the results that you want. I think that, you're just doing the same thing that everyone else is, then yeah, that'll generate some kind of uh incoming business, but it's not going to ensure this. Everyone wants that wow. Like everyone wants that, oh my god, so many people are coming in, like so many people know about me. And I think that you're not going to get that from just going the safe route.
Exactly. And I think too, like with risk, it's at its core going to be kind of an uncomfy feeling. Like if you are doing something that you've never done before, there is going to be this internal, did we make a good choice? How did we validate that choice? And if the risk doesn't pay off, right? If you fail, I think as the person who is championing that risk, you need to be accountable for it and say, okay, here's what happened. And we do a postmortem, right? If something didn't work, it's why not? What were the factors that contributed to this? What are the things that we could have done differently? What were assumptions that we made or bets that we were making that did not either turn out to be true, turn out to be as fact-based as we thought, maybe assumptions that we didn't validate, and how do we make a better decision moving forward? Because part of risk, right, the part that makes risk intelligent is learning from mistakes and not just, repeating dumb stuff over and over and calling it a risk. Like that is risky. That's not take over, right? So thinking about risk in a way that makes some business sense is, making sure to take stock of the things that don't work out, because in many cases, there's a lot more to be learned about the stuff that doesn't work than the stuff that does. Even if it's, hey, this tactic for this consumer base doesn't resonate. This message with this audience, not a good fit. This product and market, flop, right? That stuff matters as a learning.
Okay, so speaking of a kind of risk, do you think that this is kind of just an opinion, I guess, but do you think that one good PR stunt is sustainable for a company to kind of maintain customers for their service if they're like service is that good. Like if they have one really good campaign, do you think that that's sustainable if they are able to maintain customers through the quality of their product or service?
So here's what I will say about clickbait, stunts, fake news, right? Sort of like manufactured moment from a brand. There is a way to do this that is super brand aligned and safe for your consumers, right? That doesn't mean it's not a risk inherently, and I'll talk about an example in a second, but I think any time that a brand, in an effort, right, to be edgy or clickbaity or trending, is willing to trade their credibility and trustworthiness for virality, there is a real danger to brand and to product and to customer acquisition. And I think, two kind of prime examples of this, right? One done well, one done incredibly poorly. Airbnb, right? Using two super recent examples from the last year. Barbie Dreamhouse comes out as a bookable experience on the Airbnb platform right after the Barbie movie. That's a risk, right? They renovate this kind of Malibu beach house. They spend a lot of money pushing this campaign to kind of trend jack on a viral moment. It's a big PR stunt. It is like the house no longer exists. You can't book it. It's a one-off kind of thing, but it is super brand aligned for them. Really cool experience, really bound by time and place, really host centric, right? Barbie being the host of the house of the dream house, super brand aligned, big risk, big reward, and at the end of the day, does not compromise the safety of people's money, health, wellness, family, lifestyle, right? Those are the things that when we talk about risk need to be really calculated. On the other hand, you have somebody like Trevor Jacobs, who's a YouTuber, who is somebody that creates a lot of like viral aviation content. He intentionally, as has been found by the FAA, intentionally wrecked his airplane during a YouTube stunt in partnership to sell wallets, which explain that connection to you can't. And he intentionally wrecks his airplane in a forest and then requires like an evacuation out of there. He creates all these videos, it's super viral. And basically from the jump is decided that not only was this a risk to his person, but an unmanned airplane careening out of the sky at people's homes, lives, properties, cars. The risk to that is deeply egregious to the consumer, to the person, right? So here we have kind of two paths, right? Like two super viral moments, both aligned with risk. One of them I would call an intelligent risk, right? Where there is like a big campaign attached to it, lots of money, lots of marketing. The self brand is supposed to be like super organic, still a viral moment, pans out and the dude's in jail. Like he gets like 6 months in jail. So it pans out entirely differently. And part of this is like, does it damage? In search marketing, we have this kind of acronym YMYL, your money, your life. And this is a protected category within Google search where Google cares a lot about content that is created in these categories because of its inherent risk to the individual person. So anything that is related to health, happiness, family, life, medicine, safety, these are areas that when a brand engages, whether that's through search content, influencer marketing, paid advertising in these areas, not only do the platforms that kind of govern these areas and the content on these platforms care a lot, but consumers are particularly squirrely about content that violates their feeling of safety and security in those areas. And I think these two examples, right, like, and there's so many more like this kind of in both of these categories, and particularly in the negative category where let's just see like, oh, let's do this. And there's no gut check for like, okay, is our entire brand worth this one moment? Is our entire customer acquisition strategy worth this one tactic in a campaign that has the potential to uproot a dozen different campaigns that were building goodwill, trust, credibility, safety, security, all of these important things? So I wish there was like a clean cookie cutter answer. Is it worth it? I think in Airbnb's case, probably. It boosted revenue, it generated a lot of positive press. But again, it didn't violate kind of those YMYL categories. It didn't make a consumer feel unsafe. Whereas, the Trevor Jacobs stunt obviously violates basically across the board every single category of well-being. So that's where I'll leave that.
no, I completely get what you're saying. I think there's a way to do a viral stunt smartly. Like, I think that there's like the dream house, there's the only thing that they're kind of that's at the expense of it if they're doing everything safely, like building the house safely and like making sure that everything's up to code and all that stuff. The only risk that they have is the money that they put into the house, which they probably have some to spare.
Skill is a part of your marketing investment, right? Your budget goes to that. But I think even one step further, right? To take another example, sometimes evaluating risk and deciding if this campaign is going to be like a really good moment for the brand or potentially really damaging is to take the question like one step further. For example, in like the 90s, United had this like business traveler program called Take Me Away Ticket. And it was for business travelers in like their business class. They could buy a ticket at like a third of the cost for their lives because it was really geared towards men who traveled a lot because, we're in that period of time. And they sent then a letter to all of these wives afterwards saying, hey, thank you so much for traveling with us. Like, here's an additional, and the brand, you go, that's a really good move. They're thanking their customer. It's another touch point. The problem was a lot of the businessmen weren't taking their wives. They were taking their mistresses. And unwittingly, without intending to, United uncovers all of these affairs and then sends a letter to the wife like, hey, thank you so much for going to London. We can't wait to see you again. And it's like, I didn't go to London. You went with my husband to London. And it's just like this crazy moment where
I didn't even think about that.
you did, but the question when you're weighing some of these moments, and obviously, it's one of the world's greatest airlines, they obviously recover, but sometimes weighing these risks are like, what are the unintended consequences of doing this? And asking that question, I think, maybe it doesn't prohibit somebody like Trevor Jacob, who's going to make a poor decision from doing that because the unintended consequence, I don't think someone conceptualizes they take their pilot's license away, they go to jail, they get fined. Like, most people aren't catastrophizing to that end. But maybe before they send that letter, right? Because the Take Me Away ticket on the surface, great idea, right? Boosts revenue. It's a companion fare. It's a really great idea. Before you send the letter, you go, what's the worst that could happen to this? And you go, what if they're not taking their spouse? Like, and you know that somebody at United was thinking that. You know that somebody there was going, who is this being mailed to? And all it would have taken was a cross check on who's on the ticket versus who are they mailing it to. And one simple gut check could have avoided this like very kind of like embarrassing hoopla, less so for United and more so for the people that this. But it's just this super interesting study. And if you take 1 second to go, what happens if this doesn't play out exactly the way, like, let's do a pre-mortem on if this doesn't work, why not? What was the thing that took this off the rails? And it's just a different way to think about campaign planning is like I love a pre-mortem because it really helps you figure out where are we about to step in something that maybe we could just avoid altogether.
I'm actually so happy that you talked about this because I had no idea that it happened and it's really funny.
It's like, I mean, not because of marketing or wild, like it was just a wild west out there, but so many examples of stuff like this where, brands, again, thoughtfully doing it well, inadvertently doing it incorrectly or, with some consequences. But yeah, these studies in particular are very fascinating for how the brands responded, what the consumer response was. And obviously, United handled this very gracefully and, really tried to make things right with their consumer base. But ultimately it wasn't their fault, right? It was the passengers who were the ones that were, doing this. But very interesting case study in campaigns.
It always makes me think of like when I think of a PR stunt, I always think of John Morgan, which I don't know if you've seen these because you live in Florida right now, but he's from Florida, which is hysterical. Have you seen these poster boards? Okay, so do you know John Morgan, like the lawyer, like this very famous lawyer? Okay, so he put posters, like he has a Philadelphia, I guess, team, like a marketing team for different states that he's like associated with. his PR team in Philadelphia posed this idea to him of having posters that say John, like JAWN.
For 4 billboards on 95 that had this.
Yeah, and it's so funny to me because a lot of people like hate this guy in Philadelphia because they're like, oh, it's appropriation, like he's using our word, like we don't like this, blah blah blah. But I think that it was so successful in getting people to talk about it and talk about him because I didn't know who this guy was. I had no idea who this guy was. And now I see these posters and I think about them every day. I think about them in every podcast that I ever have. This comes up way too often. And the fact that it's constantly on my mind for a PR stunt because I'm like, this is ingenious. It's yeah, maybe a bunch of people hate you in Philadelphia, but they probably weren't going to use you as a lawyer anyway. Like it's not like oh, I'm not going to go to him because he used the word John, and I don't like that. But
And I think it's a totally different scenario because he's not like the YMYL categories, right? Like, oh, so you're not from Philly, you're not like us. Well, like, first of all, Philly's, I mean, we're a call, right? Like, we don't like you, you don't like us. Like, that's
Yeah.
from Philly. Like, we're looking for any reason to kick you out of the club, right? But it's a totally different stunt when it's like actively damaging someone's money, life, personhood, well-being versus like, oh, you use John like poser. You know what I mean?
it's like
Different bot.
the only negativity that happens from that is like a bad taste in some people's mouths, but at the same time, people are still talking about him. And I think that's really all he wanted because it's, if someone's looking for, I think he's an injury lawyer, if I'm not mistaken. Like, if someone's looking for that, like, they have him at the forefront of his mind because they see his billboards everywhere. And I think that's genius.
On this. This is like Roman Empire level of like thinking in Paul here.
I think about it almost every day. And I hate that I do because it's just like, oh, this is rich lawyer in Florida.
Like we all have campaigns that stick with us. Like there are some that I will remember. I'll forget my own name one day and I will remember like the Guinness Made of More campaign. Like I use this. So I'm also an adjunct professor and I use this campaign in my intro to public relations class every semester. And there's a lot of ad campaigns that we call forward and we do like a rhetorical study on, but this one is one of them. It's like, this campaign came out like, oh my God, 15, 20 years ago, like not to date myself, but it's been a minute since it's been on the air. And I think about this probably once a week, like at least. And it's just, there are just campaigns that it's going to come up. Like your brain is just going to wake up one day and be like, I wonder what John Morgan's doing right now.
It's just, I'm always wondering.
Well, John, if you're out there, if you hear this, let us know.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I wonder if he's ever gonna see my podcast. He's gonna think I'm obsessed with him. I'm not. It's just that he has, like, I just think it's a genius stunt. Like, I don't know how I feel about him using the word. I'm not from Philly, so it's not my word to take or feel an opinion on. But it's, marketing perspective, kind of genius. I can't take that away from him or the Philly.
Ties the campaign to a time and a place, right? And good advertising makes you feel something. Good marketing makes you feel something, makes you remember something. And I can't speak. I've only seen, I think, in passing this billboard on 95, but it's clearly working for you. So I feel like at minimum an N of 1 is success. Which
if I ever need injury lawyer, if I'm ever injured,
calling John
unlawfully, I'm calling. Maybe not, but we'll see. He's probably too expensive.
If you do, call home.
All right, so we've already gone over time. I love that we're talking about these things, though. They're very entertaining to me, and I am going to look more into that, the stunt with the airlines, because I think that's hysterical, honestly. I want to watch a documentary on that, honestly.
All right.
Of all the lives that American Airlines ruined, but honestly, rightfully so. Like these husbands,
what I mean?
Feel
Out there trifling. We're gonna have a real interesting conversation if United sending you a companion fare.
and so maybe like they should have made that into positive marketing. Like they should have been like, so we care so much about women,
Which I mean, they handled it about as well as you possibly could have, given what had unfolded. But I just imagine you're one of those guys, like the best stance you have, like the most morally upright stance is you shouldn't have told my mistress and my wife. But like you're coming from such a low punching spot that it's like, United's not in the wrong here. Like they could have twisted it. He's it's he stands to have to punch from. I'm just, we don't believe United was in the wrong here. I think they tried to do a really good thing, and just, that question of what's the worst that could be the outcome here, just, no one thought it was going to be that.
They could have twisted it to a really great feminist perspective.
It was it was tough. It's tough, but especially then.
Right. Okay, so this is really all the time that we have today, but it was so incredible to talk to you. I learned so much from this call, especially, more interesting things than I say I usually do. And I won't say that to anyone else that I talk to, but thank you so much for coming on with me today. I really appreciate it. And for everyone listening at home, do not forget to like and subscribe to hear more interesting PR stories, hopefully, and marketing tips from everyone else. I really appreciate talking to you today.
Yeah, thank you so much again for having me. It was a blast.
Thank you so much.
This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.